Morning, everybody. My name is Hadley Gamble. I am the anchor for the Middle East for CNBC News, and I'm very, very pleased to have Haifaa Al Mansour joining us here in Davos to talk about a lot of different things. But I think one of the things that has struck me over the last couple of years, covering the Middle East in particular, is that more women are speaking out and really taking control, not just as entrepreneurs, of course, but also as leaders. We're seeing more leaders than ever as women in the Middle East. And certainly this is something that you have focused on in your films as well. And I just wanted you to give us a sense of where you think we are today in terms of female empowerment in the region.
Well, I think we've done a lot. It is amazing how Arab women became, like, we just have Nadine Labaki nominated, the first Arab woman nominated for an Oscar, which is amazing, especially in the arts. Like, I think, well, the Middle East is very conservative, you know, and all the ideologies about like marginalizing women, it has been there for so long. So, but lately there have been they deconstruct that narrative, giving women space in the public, like Saudi Arabia is not as segregated. Women, and they are diversifying the workplace for women. And I'm just going to start a film in Saudi Arabia, and I have a lot of girls working with me, which is amazing. Saudi young girls and working in wardrobe and costume, and even in my department is like an assistant director assistant. So it is happening, and I think it is. I would give a lot of credit to the young girls who are challenging sometimes very traditional places to achieve their dreams. And sometimes it's hard because Arab women in general are very shy, and it's hard for them to challenge their family rules or anything. But it's changing, and they want to have a voice, and they want to go out. So it is all, I give it all to the young girls who are really trying to have their space in the society.
What do you think is really behind this? Because it's not just a theme that's happening in the Arab world, of course. It's really become a global theme, female empowerment, the future is female. What's driving that, do you think?
I think it's just like evolution. Like I work in Hollywood, and it's really hard for women directors to get jobs. Like if a male director makes one film a hit in Sundance, his next project most probably will be a studio big budget. But a female director will have to have 3 independent films before she achieves that level. So there's always like a skepticism if women can really handle big budgets, can women do it? But now the narrative has changed because a lot of, like I'm speaking about my field, a lot of films that are directed by women, starring women, like Wonder Woman, are huge blockbuster. And they really drive audiences to the movie theaters, and they talk about really important themes, and they are unique in the storytelling. So I think people are noticing, and I think also women don't want to be marginalized anymore. That is why we see the Me Too movement and Time's Up movement that gives space for women and want to create like a safe working place for women, especially in the entertainment industry.
And when you take a step back and think about what you'd like to achieve next as a director and as really a role model for women and Arab women in particular, what's something that you're looking towards?
I really want to make films that, whether it is coming from the region or internationally, about strong female protagonists. I really enjoy portraying women who don't see themselves as victims. And even if the situation is hard, it is not going to be easy for women. And sometimes young female directors come to me and just tell me, like, what can we do? I tell them, no, it's not going to be easy. You have to be persistent and never take no for an answer. Work really hard. Knock on the doors twice, more than twice. And it is, and I think that is, I feel it is, we need to give examples like this for younger girls to show them that they can do it. But it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of hard work and persistence.
Do you think that post-Harvey Weinstein, Hollywood has changed dramatically?
It did change. It still needs to change more, but yeah, it did change. It's I see it in the type of scripts that's sent to me and the meetings I've been getting with. Like usually they meet only with middle-aged white men. So now it's like there is a chance for a more diverse director like me working in Hollywood. So yeah, I think it is changing, and I think it is also changing in the relationship. There is more respect for actresses, and
it's not a fad.
Exactly.
One of the things that has been quite striking in your work is, as you say, the female protagonists and making sure that women are not portrayed as victims, but as strong and empowered people. What are some of the influences that led you there?
I think I just like growing up, my mother is a very strong person, and I always felt like shy because my mother, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, was very conservative, and women were supposed to cover completely and everything, but my mom will never completely cover, will always have a really light veil, and she'd come to visit me in school, and I was like, I was just like really embarrassed. This is not my mom. I don't know that woman. But she taught me what it means to be defiant and true to yourself, and what it means to do things that make you happy on a small scale and work hard. So I think that is a big influence on my kind of like where I see myself as a woman. I'm not necessarily scream in my films or in the way I handle any kind of, it is more of like creating a space where I can be who I am and talk about issues that are important for me with maintaining respect to the world and creating that, building bridges more than just like being controversial, just like talk.
It's been a conversation that I've had for over the several years now, particularly with everything that's happening in Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030, so many young women entrepreneurs in Saudi Arabia coming to the fore. How do you make that balance? Because there's still a perception from the West about what Saudi Arabia is, and there's also, of course, perceptions internally about what women should be. How do you balance that?
I think the perception will always be there surrounds women. It is just like we are just new to the workforce. We didn't have this accumulative history and experience, and all what we have to do is to work hard, to prove ourselves, and support each other. And I think it is the concept of sisterhood is very important, and we need to cultivate it. And we go to the bathroom together, right? So it's our thing that we are we are a group. And I think once women understand how important it is to support other women and give them opportunities, I think that will have a very drastic shift on our existence in the workspace.
But that also requires, I've always found this, and my mother has always said this to me, you're going to have to find a strong man because you're a strong woman. How do we create that environment where men really feel safe being strong men so that they can be with us?
I can't speak about men. I really can't speak about men, but I think it is, they're always threatened, but like, you know, but it is not something.
Little deers.
Yeah. It is not us versus them. It is more of we complete each other. And it is a society that is, or a place that needs both point of view. Like even when I was making Wajda, which was about a young girl who wants to own a bicycle and wants to have her dream within the restrictions of the culture. The father wanted to have a son, and he loved the mother. And for me, I wanted to show the pressure, the social pressure on the man as much as on the woman. So it is not, and I give all thanks for my husband because my first draft of the film was anti-men. I was like, no, we women, it's all. So he talked a lot of sense into, but I think it is really into my militant. But I think it is important, like, yeah, that we respect each other, and it is not us versus them.
Do you see that narrative, particularly in the region, in the Middle East, changing now?
I think, yeah. I think there is a lot of opportunity for women, given women, and there is a lot of support. Because it is the general public in the Middle East is not used on women being in leadership positions and all that. So they need the support to push them and to cultivate their existence. So they have that now. And it is up to them to take it to the next level and show their independence and show the general public that they can succeed and they can fulfill what is expected from them. So it is a really big responsibility, and it's a lot of work. And maybe a woman would work harder twice as much as a man, which is really frustrating. But hopefully the next generation of females entering the workplace don't have to work as much to prove themselves and to prove that they can succeed and they can handle the responsibility.
There's no doubt that women are very resilient
Yes.
And certainly in Saudi Arabia, before the Vision 2030 was announced and things really started to open up, we would see an incredible amount of female entrepreneurs finding ways around the social restrictions at that time. They would be, they'd be selling things on Instagram. They found ways to be integrated and to really be out there with whatever it is that they were trying to achieve. How do you see that progressing in the Arab world today? Because this is the most tapped in and connected youth globally.
So, sorry, I didn't get that.
When you look at the Arab world today,
Yeah.
the young people, they're the most connected.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so how do you see that really helping drive change for women in the region?
I think, virtual reality created that existence where it is, if the society is segregated, it's not segregated online. So people can hear each other and talk with each other. Sometimes they're talking too much and they're a little bit too aggressive fighting with each other. But it is a way to find who you are, examine. Like one thing that I found is amazing about the Saudi culture, they have a great sense of humor. We didn't know that about each other before Twitter. If you go and hear the comments and it is really funny and it is really deep. So there is something that you discover about yourself when you and social media brought in. And I think as you said, a lot of women use Instagram to start their own business and to have their own kind of existence, which is wonderful. I can't speak for social media because I'm really bad at it.
So am I. Yeah. I have to ask, though, in terms of where you see the connection, because as you say, there are a lot of misperceptions about Saudi Arabia, about the region from the West. How are you changing that narrative?
I think we should not be preoccupied about changing the narrative. It is more about how can we do to improve the situation back home. And for me, it's one of the things I want to do is to make amazing films. And that is what I want to go and look for stories that are empowering and that are fun to watch and that are moving, and just tell those stories because I enjoy telling them. And I think it is not about trying to impress someone else or trying to change something. As much as really we're working, I think it is important to work and build whatever we have, especially in the arts. Saudi Arabia went through a very conservative phase where we didn't invest a lot in music and film and theater, and now it's catching up. And all what we have to do now is to just put all our efforts and energy to build in that industry and to work hard to make it really effective. And it needs craft, so we need a lot of training, and we need to bring a lot of, and that is where we should put our energy, really, in building those industries, and especially injecting young people and giving them chances to find their voice if they want to be, for example, an actress, or if they want to be like a singer or performer of some sort. It has to have some kind of training, and we need to cultivate that. And that is where we should put our energy, I think, and then hopefully the world will notice.
You talked a bit about sisterhood. What would be your advice to young women who are looking to get into film, looking to get into the arts to express themselves?
To work really hard. The art is not really on open places. It's really difficult to get in there. So working hard and working on their craft is very important. And aligning themselves with other organizations is very important too. Nobody exists in a vacuum. And it was hard for me coming as a filmmaker from Saudi Arabia to find, because we didn't have industry at the time, and it was I felt like I'm alone. But I searched online and I connected with Sundance, I connected with Huberbots Fund in Rotterdam, and I connected with a lot of organizations that supports emerging filmmakers, and I tried to be part of those organizations. I'm not saying it is hard because we will get rejections. I got so many applications rejected from Sundance, I can't tell you. But it is the way to go, is to find a place where you can feel you are part of a community. And I hope if we have women in leadership in places like that, cultivate other women and give them chances to grow as artists.
As you sought your way as a filmmaker, and as you achieved more and more success, you were lauded at home, but at the same time, coming from a conservative place, there were a lot of questions that people had about, should a woman be doing this? And how did you manage that? Because it must have been quite hard.
It's quite hard, yeah, but I never thought of it personally. I knew that I come from a society that expects women to take more traditional careers. And so I knew that they are nervous, and maybe I threaten their moral, like what they see is right and what they see is correct. So I felt compassion to them, and I always wanted to show respect. I didn't want to step on and just be provocative for them as much as wanted to have a place next to them. But it's changing now. I feel I'm more celebrated back home, and there's space for me. And I feel like even a lot of musicians and they are everybody who's working in the entertainment who felt at one point outcast. Now they feel more celebrated and respected and given their space in society, and that is really it's amazing to feel that as an entertainer.
What do you think is something that we'll see in the next few years, particularly with women in the region? Because obviously more women in leadership roles, more women in the arts as well. What's something that you're looking forward to for women?
I'm looking forward to see more women in politics and more women, hopefully, in leadership and corporations, because those are places that directly involved in decision making and empowering other women and making there's more places for them. And it is happening, and we see a lot of very strong voices emerging from the Middle East. And it is wonderful to see that, and it's going to be a long way. It is not easy to as I said, we don't have this history of work in the workplace, so there will be setbacks, and it's not going to be a rosy road. It's not going to be something happens overnight, but with hard work and believing in ourselves, it will happen.
Particularly in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, much
Yes.
of that is being government-driven, government-enforced and mandatory, putting women in certain positions, whether it be in corporates or whether it be in government as well. I sat on a panel yesterday of leaders from the Arab world, 5 men and me.
Hopefully will change.
Hopefully will change. But in terms of that drive, it is at the moment government-driven. When are we going to see that really coming from the home as well, do you think?
I think once women prove themselves and people get used to see them, because people never saw women in leadership positions. It's not even optically, visually, it's not something that they are not used to it. So they need to get used to it, and they need to understand that it is okay, and it's not going to affect who we are or our identity, and it's going to enhance our existence as a nation. I think that is when it will happen together. And it's a lot on the women's shoulders. They have to work really hard to prove themselves to the general public, and they have to engage with them and make sure that they understand that they can succeed, and they can handle everything given to them.
One of the conversations that we had last year at this forum was with Her Royal Highness Princess Rima, and we were talking about the misperceptions in the West, and she said, yeah, I think we do get a bad rap, because for every few things we do, we get set back in the press whenever they're talking about what's happening in the region. What are some of the misperceptions that you see?
That all the scripts I get about Muslim and Arab women are all victims and sad, and things are happening to them. So it's like, no, we're very sassy, we're very strong. Like, don't take us for granted. So that is a lot of that women and the Arab women are not in control of their destiny, and sometimes they are not, because it is family but that does not take their soul. And that doesn't take who they are as people who are fighters and have strong will to survive and to succeed. So that is a huge misconception, that we're way more than they think we are as women.
And finally, before I let you go, when you have the opportunity, as you have had, to speak to an international audience about the things that you're passionate about, one of them, of course, is women empowerment. What is the message that you want to convey, whether it be by film or by sitting here and speaking to all of us, about the role of women going forward, but particularly from the Arab world?
I think the message is that we need to stick together, and we need to celebrate each other. Whether we are from Saudi Arabia or from England, I made a film about Mary Shelley, because who wrote Frankenstein. Everybody knew Frankenstein, nobody knew Mary Shelley. And for me, I felt like she's a woman that, as women, we should all come together and celebrate her, because she is the mother of science fiction. And we're always told science fiction is a very male-dominated place. You cannot go there as a woman. You have to do romantic comedy. You have to do, social commentary, a small scale, but not science fiction. And that is not true, because science fiction was written by a female, and everything in her life she went through as a woman was in the book. And all what we see is the universal green monster, and we never saw the person who wrote it, the young girl. So I think it is important to celebrate that womanhood and create legacy that we can rely on as we move forward. It is, we need to create our history, and we create a narrative of success and what we can do and what we can achieve as women everywhere in the world, and support each other across races and countries and boundaries.
I know that we have just a few minutes left, and I don't know that we have a microphone in this room, but if there were any questions from the audience for Haifaa, I want everyone to get the opportunity to talk to her, because she's terribly impressive. There is a microphone, so if anyone would have any questions, if you just raise your hand. Emma.
Hi, thank you. This has been fantastic to hear from you. I'm just wondering if you could tell me if you feel that we're doing enough as women in the West to support women in the Arab world.
I think there is always more support is nice. But I have to say my manager is a woman, my agent is a woman, and everybody I worked with in the West is women, and they are very much behind me and behind my success. I contribute my success to a lot of the producer. The 2 films I produced in Hollywood, Napoli Ever After and Mary Shelley, was produced by strong female producers who believed in me and believed in my vision, and they gave me the control of doing my work. So I think it is just like looking at each other away from like you are from the East, I am from the West, what can we do? It's more of like working together to achieve something universal without like, so I think there is a lot of support, but it is always, even support between Arab women is very important, because we are in contact with each other all the time. We are in a small space, we work together, we live together. We are mostly related and relatives. So it is good to have that also, the Arab women support other Arab women and be with them in the same, like to cultivate them, because it is, we know our needs and we share a space together. So yeah, do more, Emma.
We have the same lady.
This is just a wonderful pleasure. Thank you so much. My name is Mary Harrison. I'm in the healthcare field, and I lived in the UAE for quite a while. I was impressed living there that the level of education for women has gone beyond the level of education for men, and that the motivated young women in their mid-20s were having trouble finding partners. So my question is, what's it going to take to get the men to accept this forward progress in the women?
I don't know if I am the one to answer that. I think an Arab man have to answer that, what it takes to accept a strong woman. But I think it is changing. It is really, I see it changing among younger generation. It was really harder even in generation when a woman is strong and independent, it is hard for her to start a family. People still, like, they don't want to marry a doctor, like, because she has long shifts and stuff like that. So it is really, but it is really, there is a dramatic shift in the younger generation who wants to fall in love and find their partner based on a personal choice, not based on like your mother sees a woman and ask, like, it's not only arranged marriages. I think they are moving away from that. And it is, I don't think we can force it. It will happen. I think people just getting to find themselves and finding the changing roles of women within the society, and it will happen. And they shouldn't worry about finding partners. It's really like, it is not the end of the world. They should enjoy independence. I have 2 kids now, and it's like a lot of work. But it is amazing to be with my husband.
I think one of the questions I think that all of us as women are always constantly asking ourselves and asking each other, we've heard about it from whether it be Sheryl Sandberg or Michelle Obama, having it all, finding it all. Can we have it all as women? But what is the answer to that? That it's just different for everybody, or you just have to kind of find your own peace in that sense?
No, it is different for everybody, but we can have it all. I think we should have it all, and people should always, if she wants to find a partner, she should put all her energy in finding a partner. I think it's a wasted energy, but but that is.
You got lucky.
I got very lucky. But it is, yeah. I think it's changing a lot, and younger people are. So I hope, yeah. Thanks, everybody.
This lady.
Hi, Beth Bovis. As a big fan, I'm interested in maybe what's next and what's coming up next for you and your projects. You can give us a little inside scoop.
Yeah. I have different projects, but one of them, I'm going back to Riyadh right after here to start my next Saudi film, and it's about a young female doctor who runs for a municipal election. It is a really, it's a sweet film about a girl finding her voice, and it's German-Saudi co-produced. So we'll see how the Germans and the Saudi, you know how the Germans everything list. Every day they present me with a huge list. We have, and the Saudis list. So we will see how the culture goes together. But it is amazing. It's really wonderful. Wajda also was a German-Saudi co-production, and it's wonderful to see the 2 cultures learn from each other, work together closely, and have this kind of intercultural change that is not forced. People just become friends and enjoy learning. Like the Germans will relax a little bit, and the Saudis will up it a little bit. So we will find a space together.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Haifaa Al Mansour, so much for joining us. It was wonderful to meet you. Thank you.